Hey there. Over the years, many different people from very different traditions across the world have come up with special ways to describe how humans as a race aren't living up to their full potential. Sometimes we have fallen from a higher place or better state and are seeking to return. Sometimes we are ignorant or confused and need to be purified or educated. Often you'll see that we are seen as completely asleep and need to be awakened. It could be that we are described as children that need to be taught how to grow up. In the ancient Hermetic text, it was always drunkenness. We, as a race, are drunk and need to find a way to overcome this intoxication. In this video, I'm going to contemplate this whole idea of drunkenness, and then together we can explore its remedy. If we think about someone who's drunk, if we picture them in our mind's eye, we immediately imagine them stumbling about. So the first symptom of drunkenness is not being able to coordinate your body. But the mind is also badly coordinated. Drunk people are very unaware both of their surroundings and of the feelings and needs of others. They tend to be quite rude and have poor judgment in what they say. Not only do they have a problem coordinating their words literally, but often what they're saying isn't from any information they have or any knowledge. They tend to put forth very strong opinions thoughtlessly in order to have an effect or get attention. Drunk people are known for fighting, and often fighting over nothing in particular. It's almost as if when we're drunk, our emotions are more in control, but it's hit and miss as to whether they find a positive, effective expression or whether things go terribly wrong. Drunk people are very selfish and they're focused on short-term decision making. So they tend to do things which in the night are fun, but they'll regret later on. And this can be something very subtle, like spending too much money or losing things, or it could be something very serious. Sometimes people make such impulsive decisions that they regret them for the rest of their life. All in all, if we look at drunkenness, we can see it summarised by lack of awareness, poor judgment, aggressive behaviour and short-term decision making. So if we take these qualities and we look at our race, we can actually see that the Hermeticists were correct. We as a race have been drunk for a very long time. You can see that as long as human records have been in existence, we've been fighting with each other needlessly. We've been selfish in our decision making. And we have made some very short-term decisions, some of which we are starting to see the consequences of now. So, as a race, how do we wake up? And what would it be like to sober up from this state of drunkenness as an individual? If you had been drunk the whole of your life, when you return to normal, your coordination would be superhuman to you and to everyone else. Your judgment would be keen and precise. You'd be far more stable. You'd have a greater insight and memory. All your faculties would be far above your fellow man, especially your awareness. And all this hardship, this fighting through drunkenness, would be great training, because once that is no longer holding you back, the lessons you learnt would really benefit you. So we definitely want to wake up. And in order to find the way to do so, we need to look for the cause of the drunkenness. In the Hermetic texts, the answer is clear. We have been partaking of ignorance. We are drinking ignorance. So let's look at what that could mean. Ignorance, willfully applied, would involve anything that we did where we deliberately turned our gaze away from information, where we found a way of functioning that involved being less aware rather than embracing understanding. Perhaps we could imagine circumstance where we twisted the truth and created an alternative way of things being in our own understanding, or lied to others in order to be able to get on in the world. On the most basic level, we can imagine that actually drinking alcohol would be part of this. It could be a way of cutting off from the way you feel and letting go of your awareness. The same is true of other drugs. Drinking lots of coffee so you don't actually have to deal with how tired you are, or taking drugs to change your mood rather than dealing with what your emotions are telling you. If we were to explore this on a deeper level, we could think in terms of times when we lie to ourselves in order to feel better about things. We can see this as a strategy that could be developed when we're very young. You know, when we're just little, one of the first things we have to deal with is our own shortcomings. And you can see this method get used quite quickly. This would be the young child that says, I wasn't really trying. I never wanted to play that game. I never wanted that. So we can see that a deliberate overestimation of our abilities, an excuse for not being able to apply them, may be the most simple form of this. And you see this all the time. You see people who say, I could have done wonderfully at school. I'm actually very clever. I just didn't want to do what they told me. And that's a far better reality for them to be a rebel than to face that perhaps they needed more discipline, or perhaps they didn't have the intellect to do what they were trying to do. We can see this denial can sometimes move to blaming other people. Oh, I would have been a very successful musician if it wasn't for my partner, who really holds me back and wanted children. It could be a mass blaming of other people. So this could be the person who's got a wonderful new product and no one's buying it, but it's not him that's wrong, it's not the product that's wrong, it's everyone else is so uncultured and so stupid they won't buy the product. Or it could be someone who they can't get a job, but it's not their fault, it's these group of people who have stolen the jobs who are the bad guys. We could also apply this to any belief we come up with which isn't based on evidence. So, a convenient belief about the world, about how things are destined to happen, or about how we're going to go to a very good place in the future. A convenient belief in a supernatural help or a experience that's going to lead us to where we want to be. You can imagine someone finding beliefs which make them feel better and slotting them straight into place as a way of making the world easier to function in, rather than growing to meet the challenge of dealing with how it is the way they observe it. In a lifestyle, we could also see ways of partaking of ignorance. Perhaps we buy in to lies of others who will empower us in return. Maybe we deliberately spend our time with people who say what we want to hear, even if we have very polite, friendly people who will be able to tell us the truth in a way that will help us. We can imagine that we could also do things. Maybe we could hide in television or on the computer so that we don't feel a certain emotion or deal with actual real problems. I often see people change goals. So they often say, I want to do this. And then when they find it hard, rather than apply more or accept some that it's beyond them, they'll change the goal to something less. And I've even seen it go the other way to the point where they hate that goal and anything to do with it, and always did. So there are some strategies that we employ as humans which involve lying to ourselves or others, either knowingly or unknowingly, or cutting off from information and understanding in order to be able to feel better or to temporarily find a strategy to function in the world. And most of us have layers of these. Some of them are developed by ourselves, some of them are actually in our society. There are inherent beliefs which aren't quite right, and you can see in phrasing on things. So in our society, for example, we do a lot to try to avoid thinking about the fact we've got a limited time on earth. So you'll see phrasing will say, if you die, on your life insurance, you know. But it's not an if, it's a when. You'll see this kind of denial in many other subjects. So there's a belief, for example, that you're completely in control of everything that happens in your life. That's put forth. So we have layers of these different ways we've embraced ignorance, and they're holding us back. They're causing inner conflict. They're stopping us from reaching our full potential. So how do we stop partaking of ignorance? How do we stop drinking that and sober up? Well, the way isn't to focus on ignorance. The way is to focus on truth. To develop a love of truth on all levels, of emotional truth and of intellectual truth, of awareness and of genuineness. Now this is a subtle, ongoing process, but it's a beautiful, rewarding one. And I would like to recommend 3 practices that will help you do this. The first one is the mastery of the word. And I mean the word both in the terms of how you think and how you speak. To do this, I recommend you study logic and you watch every word you say and make sure that you never ever utter anything that you don't believe to be true. This is a beautiful process. as you continue on this path, you will find that you develop a beautiful love of truth. Because you only speak the truth, you want to know the truth. As you filter your own words, you filter yourself. And soon your intentions become increasingly pure as well. If you have allies near you, a teacher or friends, they can help you by pointing out any inconsistencies between your words and actions, or your beliefs and how they interact with each other. Some people may find this exercise hard initially. They may look at logic and it feels cold and uncaring. If this is the way you feel, be assured that you are mistaking medicine for poison, and that embracing truth will open your heart as well as your head. The second exercise is that of building awareness. By sitting in meditation twice a day in a state of pure awareness, to create the template of consciousness you will take into your day, where you will apply your full effort to every undertaking, no matter how great or minor. Many people do the same thing every day and never improve. You will stand above the rest because each and every action will be training for you, and you will improve everything you do in every moment. As your awareness grows, your true talents will start to shine forth, and you will find the coordination returning to your mind and body. And finally, truthfulness in your emotions. You will make sure that whatever you feel, whatever emotion that occurs, you listen to it, and you find its ideal expression in the real world. Instead of being controlled by the emotion, you will work with it as a team in order to express its brilliance and power through the rest of your faculties. By increasingly listening to your emotions, you'll find that they can tell you a lot more than most people will estimate. And by applying this form of emotional honesty again and again, you'll find your intuition grows and slowly takes on a universal nature. Some people will find this hard. To express their emotions skillfully and genuinely seems to them very soft, seems to them very uncontrolled. Remember what I said about the person who was fearful of logic. Often we see the solution to our situation as the worst possible thing for us to be involved in. If you find yourself feeling this way about letting your emotions express themselves in a productive and positive way, then this is most certainly an undertaking that will be beneficial for you. These three qualities, mastering the word, mastering awareness, and mastering your intuition via your emotions, combine into one truth. And it's through these practices that we slowly undo these layers of ignorance, these layers of confusion, and sober up. I think maybe I'll stick to the herbal tea.